So Thomas Mulcair was interviewed by the CBC's Peter Mansbridge, and Mulcair said if he's Prime Minister, he would immediately stop fighting against the Islamic State terrorists. Here, take a look.
We will immediately stop the bombing mission and bring those troops home.
So all Canadian forces there, including those on training missions, would be brought home?
We will immediately withdraw our troops from Iraq and to the extent that they are doing some bombing in Syria and from Syria.
So we are out of the fight with ISIS if the NDP win?
Yes. Yes, no question about that.
Why? It's a terrorist group. They behead people. They burn people alive. They're like Nazis in their tactics. They literally keep women they capture as rape slaves. Even their terrorist leader, al-Baghdadi, he personally rapes women they capture. He had a captured American aid worker delivered to him for raping before they murdered her. They have slave markets where slaves are bought and sold. I guess what I mean is if you're not going to fight against this pure evil, this completely illegitimate enemy, this modern Nazism that would burn the world in a Holocaust if they had the means Hitler had, if you won't even fight against that, with even the smallest, safest Canadian mission, seriously, just 6 fighter jets we have there and a refueling plane and some support personnel, if we won't even do that against these people, why would you ever have an armed forces in the first place? I mean, it is impossible for the human mind to conceive of anything more evil than the Islamic State. If you won't use CF-18s to shoot missiles from a mile up with almost zero risk to our people, I mean, why even have a military? How can you ever again say you're a humanitarian? How can you ever again say you'd stand up for minority rights or women's rights or gay rights? I mean, these people kill minorities. They rape women. They throw gays off apartment buildings. Don't ever tell me that the NDP believes in freedom or humanity or compassion again. If you would stand in stony silence, passively, while this slaughter happens. Anyways, Mansbridge pressed Mulcair about the Islamic State, and here's how that went.
Does ISIS pose a threat to Canada and Canadians?
Peter, I know it poses a threat to Canada and Canadians. It's continued war in a region that's known almost nothing but for 35 years. So I think that the best thing for Canada to do is to start playing a positive role for peace, and that would be a top priority for me as the Prime Minister of Canada.
It's true the Middle East has been a hellhole for decades. How about centuries? How about more than 1,000 years? But the Islamic State is only a couple of years old as an organization, and its proto-country is only a little over a year old, and that's because of the civil war in Syria and America's premature evacuation of every single soldier from Iraq, which caused a power vacuum. These millions of Syrian refugees are not a 35-year-old problem. They're a 2-year-old problem made acute by terrorist groups and Syria's Bashar Assad, which is propped up by Iran and Russia. But I mean, who cares about the analysis or about the explanation? What are we going to do about it now? Well, Mulcair says he's going to, quote, start playing a positive role for peace. And that's a top priority, mister. All right, well, how do you play a positive role for peace with a terrorist group? What does that even mean? Send a diplomat to negotiate with them? They're attacking, murdering, enslaving, raping at will. They're impervious to diplomacy and persuasion. And Bashar Assad, backed up with Iran and Russia, what would Mulcair propose to do with Syria? Who would he talk to? What would he say? What threats would he make, or what offers would he make? Surely he doesn't mean any of this. Surely he's just saying that Canada is going to stop promoting our interests and values around the world under an NDP government. He'd just stop doing it, which would not encourage peace. It would lead to war and terrorism and refugees as other forces fill the void left by our new cowardice. Seriously, 6 CF-18 fighter jets? That's all we're doing. Maybe a mission or 2 a day. We're not even pretending to be more than a token effort, but even that is too much for Thomas Mulcair. Mulcair as Prime Minister would disgrace our country's values and our history of playing a positive role in the world through war fighting and peacekeeping. But look, that's just embarrassment. What he would really do is sentence Kurds and Yazidis and Coptic Christians and others in the region to the fruits of his apathy. That's fine. They're not our citizens. It's a fair doctrine to only care about your own people, to disengage from the world. Fine, that's fine. But just don't pretend to be the party of humanitarianism if that's your view. Oh, and don't be surprised when the little wolves devouring the Middle East, when they grow large and strong and come for us here later. For TheRebel.Media, I'm Ezra Levant.